Hey, all, good morning. Welcome into another Saints pregame live chat brought to you by Bud Light, your Bud Light ingredients to Saints success. Ingredients for Bud Light proudly displayed on the label. It's hops, barley, water, and rice. And we're going to get into Deuce McAllister's ingredients to success here shortly. But obviously, first, we got Saints Titans at noon over on CBS. You got the 5-3 Saints, second in the NFC South, going up against the 7-2 Titans, first in the AFC South. Neither star running back is in the game with Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara missing, but we will have Mark Ingram leading the way for the Saints. And I don't think there's anyone better to talk about the running game than Deuce McAllister. So let's bring him in here, get his take on the game. Hey, Deuce, how's it going this morning?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. I'm doing good. I'm glad I didn't have to deal with your travel schedule the last couple of days. I know you're out in Missouri calling that South Carolina game last night, so I appreciate you taking the time this morning.
Yeah, well, and Jeff, I'm not doing good. I say that. I had to throw my Yeti Saints Cup away. I've only had it for about 6 months, and this is the first stadium that I've ever been in that they said that you cannot bring a Yeti cup in. You know, you come in, you want to have some tea, you want to have some coffee. First stadium ever. I've been in every stadium. First stadium ever. College stadium as well. I mean, and there's like, nope, you can't bring that cup. You got to go take it back to your car. I'm like, well, first, I don't have a car here. And second, well, it's an NFL rule. Man, I've been in every stadium. No stadium has said you can't bring your cup into a stadium. You know, I said, look, you can touch it, you can feel it, whatever. And so yeah, I'm not very happy about that this morning. So if I'm gonna have a grievance, that's it.
The only thing I can compare that to is when the president was there for the national championship game and the security lines outside the Superdome were about a mile longer than usual. Apparently, Nissan Stadium treats every day like the president's there.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And so it's just the media, you know, hey, look, you can look in the bag, you can, you know, but yeah, you can't bring that cup in there. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. So
that is
strange. Now we can talk football.
Yeah, I mean, that is important. It's clearly important to you, so I'm glad we got it in there. But, you know, let's talk about the game. You know, what do you think? Obviously, there's the running game on both sides is going to be a factor in the sense of can you get it going? How do you see kind of that stacking up today? Two teams that really like to run the ball and don't have the guys they like to run the ball with.
Yeah, that they don't have the guys that they like to run the ball with, and so it's unfortunate that neither of your star guys are going to be available. And you know, for the Saints, obviously they feel comfortable with Mark being able to tote the football. With me, it's who's behind Mark. You know, is Montgomery going to be able to go? You're looking at some of the other guys maybe calling up Lamar Miller from the practice squad, and so the question becomes, what do they do there as far as the run game is concerned? So, I think anytime that you want to have some of those double teams up front, slow down that defensive line, that's what you got to do. But not having Teron Armstead is going to hurt you because now normally you can leave him on the island, you know, and say he's okay. I figured they'll bump Hurst out to that left tackle and they'll insert Hockenmore, and, you know, we'll kind of just go from there.
For sure. You know, and while we're on the run game, I didn't bother with this last week because I figured it wouldn't happen this week. Obviously, Mark Ingram needs 20 yards to set the new rushing mark. You know, it's not something that happens very often where you're calling a game that your own record gets taken down in. You know, is it going to be kind of a weird moment?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily weird for me. I think, you know, at the end of the day, the record was going to be eventually broken, whether I was involved with it or whether I was not. And so for me, you know, I know Mark personally off the field. You know, I'm extremely proud for him. I know some of the things that he has been through, what he's worked through to get to that point. So, you know, I think it's something obviously he and his guys, the teammates, they'll definitely enjoy. They definitely earned. And so, you know, I think for myself, I'm going to call it. I'm going to, talk to him after the game and, tell him how proud I am of him. And, we can just go home.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just really kind of a unique scenario. And one thing that I noticed yesterday, because of the timing of his trade, if he plays in every Saints game this season, he'll have played in 18 games, which is, I'm pretty sure that would be a first in the NFL, considering they played 16 games before this season. One last question before I let you go. Obviously, Trevor Siemian, Ryan Tannehill, who do you see having the edge in that quarterback matchup? I think conventional wisdom would be Ryan Tannehill, but, the way the Saints operate on offense, I think, is a lot smoother compared to how the Titans want to operate on offense and can't without Derrick Henry.
Well, I think, when you talk about not having Derrick Henry, not having Julio Jones, and so for Ryan Tannehill, he's got to lean on some other guys. Now, he's got a great option in A.J. Brown, but for the Saints, you don't have Alvin Kamara, who is a big part of what you want to do from an offensive standpoint, but you haven't had Michael Thomas all year. So it's not like you're losing a star receiver in that aspect. I still have to think, just with the experience that Tannehill has in this offense up here, he's probably got the edge, but the Saints have to be able to affect him and put him in long situations and kind of take away that A.J. Brown option and make him have to go to some of the other guys.
For sure. Yep. Saints are on the road without several key players. It feels like we've watched this movie before because we have. But again, thanks, Deuce McAllister, for joining us this morning. You can catch him on the call at WWL AM 870 FM 105.3 alongside Mike Haas. And again, thanks for tuning in and good luck today, Deuce.
Thank you.
All right, man. Okay, and there we have it. Thanks to Deuce for joining again this morning. Very busy guy. I'm amazed he's able to even shoehorn this little spot in, considering I know he was out in Missouri until about 6 p.m. calling that game because it was on right before the LSU game. If you caught the end of that game, that was Deuce on the call. If you were unaware of that. And obviously he shipped out overnight to Nashville to cover the noon start today. I don't know why the Saints have been blessed. We'll use the words blessed with all these noon starts, but they have been. And we'll keep doing them. We'll keep doing these bleary-eyed morning games after a late SEC Saturday. But okay, let's get into a little bit more from the game. Again, throw your comments in the chat. Bud Light pregame live chat. Ingredients to victory, all that. And just like Bud Light ingredients proudly printed on the label, hops, barley, water, and rice, the Saints' ingredients to victory today will be finding a way to run the ball despite not having their starting running back or starting left tackle in Alvin Kamara and Teron Armstead. But they do have Mark Ingram. They do have a lot of first-round picks on that offensive line to look to. But, okay, let me share the injury report right quick so we can get into a bit of what Deuce was talking about. Which I have to find it first. Okay, there it is. Okay. There it is. Doing this live, people. Doing this live. Beautiful. And there it is. And you don't have to see my ugly mug as you look at this. As you can tell, the Saints injury report is not extensive. But it is serious. You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Teron Armstead, all listed as out. C.J. Gardner-Johnson has actually been reverted to injured reserve, so he will not be eligible to come back for at least 3 weeks. That is a big injury. It's a foot injury suffered in the first half against the Falcons. He looked like he was grabbing his toe. We don't have an exact description on what the injury is, but it seems like a turf toe type thing, which the injury title for that injury is a lot less significant than it sounds. But I assure you, turf toe is not a simple thing. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is out with that knee injury. And here's what Sean Payton had to say on that injury when we talked to him this week.
Is it just, did he play through it last week?
Yeah, it was just it's a knee injury that he's rehabbing, seeing if quickly as he can get back. But towards the latter part of the game, there was soreness, and there's a play or two that you see that you could tell.
Not really Alvin specific, but if a player does have a knee injury and you're playing on a field where you're saying a lot of people slip, does that play into
No, I don't think so. The field would never factor in as to whether a guy would go or not. Obviously, it would be, I think, more challenging on a artificial surface where you have better traction, and when you have more traction and you have more stress, we're 28% more injury data on an artificial field than a grass field.
All right, yes, and so that second part is Sean kind of going into some of the issues that have been experienced on turf fields, which he pointed to Jameis Winston's. Just trying to fix the lighting here. I'm really washed out. He pointed to Jameis Winston's knee injury as a turf injury. It's an injury that happens on turf. It doesn't happen on grass. And the reason is, grass has give. Grass, if you get your cleat caught in it, it will eventually break away. It's, that it's not a solid thing. That's not true on turf. So when you get your knee compressed into the ground and your cleat gets caught, there's give in the sense that it's cushiony, but it's not going to tear away the way a turf field would. So you get that massive compression that causes those knee injuries. So that's what Sean's talking about there. And so I thought it was an interesting point that Catterall from The Athletic brought up to ask him about, because earlier in his interview, he had talked about how, the footing in Tennessee is going to be a question. They had a footing meeting. They're going to wear screw-in cleats instead of molded cleats because they noticed on film that a lot of the slip and fall issues that had been experienced in Tennessee had come with molded cleats. So they're going to wear screw-in cleats. And so the natural question is, would Alvin be playing if that footing issue was not the case? And Sean said, no, he's not playing because he's not healthy. And it's an interesting decision, because I think this is one of those decisions where, you could grin your teeth and bear it and gut through an injury like Alvin did the last time the Saints were in Tennessee. And he ran for a touchdown on what he told us later ended up being a torn MCL. And that's just not what you want to see from your star player. You don't want to have your star player gutting through an injury late in the season. You want him to be healthy. And trading for Mark Ingram gives you a few luxuries. One of them is you do not have to be excessively concerned about not having Alvin Kamara, because you have that star backup. And so that's what that was. But yeah, so obviously Mark Ingram, we talked to Deuce a little bit about Mark Ingram. We talked about the record. He is 19 yards away from tying Deuce McAllister's franchise record for rushing yards. It was the record that he left needing about 90 yards to get to. He said, quote unquote, it sucked to leave with that record hanging over his head, but he always knew he might come back. He talked extensively about it this week. We don't have to go through the whole thing, but I thought his comments were good. So I'm going to pop that in here too and have a listen.
I've just been running, man. I know when I got here it was like 90 yards or something, so I hope I'll be able to rush for 90 yards, so it's like just been focusing on just being the best version of me. When my number's called, trying to execute at a high level, perform at a high level, and do the best I can to help the team have success so ultimately we can win games. And I know the record's almost there, and necessarily haven't been counting down. It'll be a blessing. It's something that, so many great running backs have come through, the Saints program, and especially Deuce. I looked up to him growing up, watching him run the rock. So just to be able to be mentioned and with those type of players, and that's something I'm proud of, something I work very hard for. Thank the Lord for health and longevity, and everyone in my corner who has helped me get to this point. So just something that I'll be proud of, and something that I'm just going to continue to keep. I'm continuing to keep going, man. Continue trying to be better, trying to do more. So not content, not complacent, just trying to do a lot more.
And there it is. Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who I think is one of the more optimistic people you'll ever come across. The way Trevor Siemian described it, it's basically, if you can't get along with Mark Ingram, then you have a real problem, and that problem is with you. And I feel like that's a good take. I mean, he's just a guy who has just relentless upbeat energy. It's hard to root against him. I think even when he was a member of the Ravens, member of the Texans, Saints fans would have had a hard time holding any resentment against Mark Ingram, in ways that they might have against other guys who decided to leave. And obviously he wasn't alone in that decision. The management had a role. But 19 yards, he's going to get it. It's kind of cool that he's going to be able to get that record on a day that he is also the featured runner. I don't think the Saints planned this, but I think that is a good way for this kind of whole kind of story to encapsulate itself. And he gets the center stage on the day that he gets to break the record, on the day that, he kind of cements his legacy in that vein. Probably ends up in the Ring of Honor someday, or I don't know about the Ring of Honor, but at least the Saints Hall of Fame someday. So cool to see him back. But okay, again, my name is Jeff Nowak, WWL Digital Sports Producer. I'm going to throw to a commercial really quick, and then we're going to come back and get to viewer questions. Make sure you throw those in the comments. Again, this is the Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success pregame live chat. Bud Light ingredients proudly displayed on the label: hops, barley, water, and rice. There's only 4, but you'd be amazed at how long it has taken me to memorize that list and say it as I look directly into a camera. But here we are, week 10. I've got it. Hops, barley, water, and rice. I can say it in my sleep. Sometimes I do. But again, throw your comments, questions in the chat. I'd love to answer them. And I'll see you after the break. All right, we got the first one. Titans can afford the L today. The Saints cannot. I mean, the Saints don't want to lose back-to-back games. I mean, that's a given. No team ever wants to lose back-to-back games. That's just a fact of life. But to say the Saints can't afford to lose this game, I would argue is incorrect. And the reason I say that is exclusively because this is an AFC matchup. This is a matchup against an AFC team. This isn't a team that is going to factor into tiebreakers down the stretch. If you have to lose games throughout the course of a season, these are the ones you're okay with. My connection is coming through very well at all. All right, well, I'm going to keep talking, and if y'all can't hear me, let me know. But yeah, I mean, these are the matchups where you look at the schedule and you say, okay, week 10 on the road against Tennessee, an AFC team, not a divisional team, not an NFC team, not a game that's going to factor into the NFC record, the divisional record down the stretch. This is a game you can't afford to lose. Do you want to? No, you don't want to lose any games. You'd love to go 16-0, 17-0. Still haven't gotten there. I'd love to go 17-0, but that's unrealistic. So you have to bake in a few losses here and there, and one of those losses can, and there's a decent chance it will be the Tennessee Titans, 7-2, really good team in the AFC. That said, I think the Saints find a way today. I think this matches up well with what they want to do. My lighting is all over the place, so I apologize. But the Titans, they can afford to lose 4 games, I think, and still win that division. They are in about as good of a situation as you can be, but halfway through the season, they have a multiple game lead over the Colts. Not a team that strikes fear into the heart of anybody with Carson Wentz a quarterback, and they have already secured the tiebreaker against the Colts. They've swept them. So that essentially means, whatever game lead they have is a game more. So they have the best record in the AFC. They already have the tiebreaker over the only other team in their division that's going to be a factor, that's even going to make a playoff push. Yeah, they are sitting pretty. And the only thing you worry about in that situation is, do you lose your edge, knowing that, you're really just trying to get to the end. But you have to win games to get there in the best position possible. So they don't want to lose games either. They want to get that bye, and that's what they're going to be playing for. But yeah, I mean, the Titans are in about as good a situation as you can imagine at this point in the season. Any predictions for the passing game? I have a prediction. I do, and I have a good one. Hopefully my internet connection is good enough so you can hear this. Adam Troutman, he has gotten a lot of flack. He has not been incorporated into the passing game a ton. But I think that's going to change, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that Trevor Siemian gets in there for his first start, and all of a sudden Adam Troutman is kind of a go-to guy for him. It's 7 targets, 4 catches, a couple drops, and yes, the drops are frustrating, but none of those drops came, in just wide open situations. He's not dropping passes that, are just kind of layups. These are passes that were contested and they went down. You want to be able to make those catches, but you understand why they weren't made, and it's more about positioning and using your body to create the space with a tight end because you're a bigger guy. You don't have to run past people. Sean Payton talked about separating at the wide receiver position, and he said, there's 2 main ways to do it. One is by running fast and one is by stopping fast, right? Well, when you're a tight end, that's not necessarily true because you can box guys out and you're bigger and you can move them around. So he needs to get better at that. But seeing him incorporated the way he was, all of those targets, especially in the second half as the Saints made their comeback, I mean, I think the Saints coaches will be looking at that, and I'm looking at that as, maybe we found something here. There didn't seem to be a ton of chemistry between Troutman and Jameis Winston for whatever reason. I think Jameis really likes to get wide receivers involved, so he was trying to find ways to do that. He was trying to find ways to get Kenny Stills, Deontay Harris, all these guys, the ball down the field. I think Trevor Siemian is very content with moving the ball however he needs to do it, right? This is a guy who wants to win games. This is not a guy who's worried about what it looks like. And I think that you're gonna see him pepper Adam Troutman the way that people probably expected going into the year. Everyone seems to have let the ship sail on Adam Troutman being a productive tight end. I'm not ready to do that yet. Obviously, he's needed in the running game. And, hopefully the Saints can still get Nick Vannett back. It's kind of weird. I'm not entirely sure where his status is with injured reserve, but getting him back, especially as a blocker, will be big for Troutman. I'm still high on Troutman. I think that when he's incorporated into the offense more, you will be impressed. And he's going to put up numbers. I don't think he's going to put up Travis Kelce type numbers, but it's going to be a much bigger part of the passing game than it has been. Last week was not a mirage. Adam Troutman's going to have a role. And if he's sitting around on your fantasy league, which I would almost guarantee he is, unless you're in a crazy deep league, go pick him up. Unless you are completely set at the tight end position, you're past your buys, I would recommend going to pick up Troutman this morning, because I think in a couple weeks' time, he will be rostered because he's going to end up being a 7-8 week target guy in a Trevor Siemian offense. Again, this is not a Jameis Winston offense. This is not a bomb it downfield offense. This is a find points where you can, stack first downs, get extended possessions, win as many games as possible type offense, right? Game manager, whatever you want to call it. That's my prediction for the passing game. I think the drops last week, whatever. I'm not going to overreact to drops. I'm going to overreact to bad football. I'm going to overreact to poor routes, whatever. Drops can get corrected. I think the Saints have a tendency to lose focus at home. That's not a good thing. But I think it's also an understandable thing after a year of not having fans there. You're still trying to react to that crowd environment. And I think he'll get better at it. I think the home field advantage is actually working against the Saints a little bit this season because they get used to silence. And teams coming on the road, I think you almost get steeled by the boos, as Mike Hoss pointed out last week. I think you almost drive yourself off of that. For the Falcons, you've won 4 games on the road, you've won no games at home. You prefer like noise to your own fans telling you how much you suck. And I think that's worked against the Saints this season. I really do. I really think it has. And I think they'll get better at it, and they'll figure it out. But OBJ would have been nice. I like Kenny Stills. I do. I think that not turning this offense into something where you have to force the ball anywhere actually benefits you, knowing that you have to win games on defense more often than not. And, the Saints have been hurt on defense, right? They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They lost Peyton Turner to IR. Both those guys are going to be out at least 3 weeks. Sean Payton said, that's confusing. Sean Payton said Peyton Turner is expected to be back this year. So he's not out for the year with his injury. I can't remember what it was. I believe it was an elbow, maybe a shoulder. Either way, he's out for at least 3 weeks. And the good news is Marcus Davenport is healthy. People like to compare those guys, and I can appreciate it. Both the first round picks both seem to get injured quite a lot. If Marcus Davenport can stay healthy, that's big. Anyway, we're rambling. A few more here. Do we see more Taysom QB series this game? And as the season progresses, yes. I do. The question isn't whether they're going to use Taysom at quarterback. The question is whether they're going to start Taysom at quarterback. If Taysom's playing, he's going to get sets in the passing game. You saw him last week. He had three passing sets, I think, or at least 2 passes and 1 quarterback run. I mean, especially in the red zone, he's going to be that guy. He was that guy when Jameis Winston was healthy. He's going to be that guy when Trevor Siemian is healthy, especially in the red zone. And I can't emphasize that enough. This was the best red zone team in the NFL percentage-wise in terms of scoring touchdowns in the NFL. They scored on 12 of their first 13. They scored touchdowns at 12 of their first 13 trips into the red zone. You don't do that in the NFL. And a big part of that was Taysom Hill, because he's able to do things at the goal line in those power sets that a running back can't do. And there's a reason a running back can't do it, and it's because you have to have a quarterback on the field to hand the running back the ball. Okay, and while you could say, wow, Wildcat, Wildcat has its own set of issues that if you watch the LSU game last night, you understand. Taysom Hill can line up at quarterback, run the ball like a running back, and get an extra blocker. And that is a game changer in the red zone when you're running power sets and they don't have to worry about depth anyway, so they're going to attack the run. So you get an extra hat to put on a hat, And it works, and it's good. And as long as Taysom is okay with plowing through the line, that's the only concern you have is the damage he might be taking. He's not, he's a big guy. He's still not a running back build. He put on some more weight after working out at quarterback in training camp. But yeah, I mean, Taysom's going to be an even bigger part of this offense without Trevor Siemian. And I don't mean that in the pass catching sense. I mean that in, the further away you get from a franchise quarterback, start it. Right? With Drew Brees, the question was, man, do you really want to take Drew Brees off the field to bring Taysom Hill for 2 snaps? With Jameis, that question was lessened because he's not a future Hall of Famer. But you're still like, man, do we really have to take Jameis off the field so we can run Taysom Hill for a few snaps? Now, with Trevor, he's a fringe replacement level starter in the NFL. So why wouldn't you incorporate Taysom Hill as much as you can at the quarterback position? I don't think it's ever going to be a split, like a 50-50 split, but I think it's going to be a lot closer to it than not. And I think you're going to end up seeing, 6-7 pass attempts a game from Taysom Hill. And I think that's a good thing. I think that change up will be important. You could make the argument before that you don't need to change up with Jameis Winston. He's good enough that you don't need it. It helps in the red zone, but throughout the game, you don't need to try to catch people with a curveball when the fastball is good enough to beat them. With Trevor Siemian, I don't know if that's the case. But what you need to avoid is what happened last week, right? Taysom Hill came in, had 2 really good passes. The Saints had an offensive penalty, and then Trevor Siemian comes in, immediately fumbles. Now, I don't put that on Trevor Siemian completely. Tron Armstead got completely murdered on that block attempt, and he's out hurt this week. So I wouldn't be shocked if those 2 things are related. But also, I think that there's a game flow type question to be raised about. You take a guy off a field, you throw him back out there, if he's kind of in the flow, if that's not his first snap back, maybe he reads that a bit better, and maybe he still gets sacked, but it's not a sack fumble, right? There's a lot of things that could have happened on that play. Maybe he's able to get the ball out and just throw it away, throw it at the feet of the running back, do something. But you bring him back in cold, and he gets completely lit up on that first play. And I don't think those 2 things are necessarily unrelated. So it's something you have to consider. It's not a reason not to do it, but it's something you have to work on. I don't know how you practice coming into a situation cold. Maybe have them go sit in the little cooling shed that they have at training camp and then run out there and be literally cold. But I think kind of working on those quick change situations. And there's another example in the red zone late in the game. The Saints had to burn a timeout when they switched quarterbacks after a Taysom Hill run. You can't have that. If you're going to be doing those switches, you have to do it efficiently. You can't be wasting timeouts to do it, because if you are, it loses all of its value. So I mean, the Saints really, really enjoy and appreciate what Taysom Hill brings to that offense. It changes things on offense. Other teams don't want to have to deal with it. I can guarantee you that when they run out a set with Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian, and Taysom Hill ends up at quarterback, immediately the alarm bells start going off. Like it's a game changer, because they have to match personnel. And that's what I don't think a lot of people realize, is the reason having him out there in any position is an advantage is because you don't know what position he's going to line up at. It's actually an advantage. It actually evens the playing field a little bit when Trevor Siemian's not out there. And that's a lot of times you'll see people, well, why put the quarterback out there and have him stand over at the edge of the field and do nothing? He's not distracting anyone. Well, it's because when you huddle up, the other team is planning on Trevor Siemian being the quarterback, right? So they're making a play call. They're making their personnel decisions based on that. And then the Saints put him out wide, and the other team is not able to go into oh, crap, this is going to be a run set. You're probably a nickel or dime. Or if they're in a heavy set, they're well up at the line. You're going to get cover 1 or whatever. It's an advantage. It keeps the defense off guard. Once the offense is dictating to the defense, that's the biggest step you can take toward winning a game. And that's what you are able to do with personnel with Taysom Hill. Hopefully he can stay healthy. He talked a lot about his concussion this week. It sounded really dangerous, a scary experience. He said that he never lost consciousness, but he literally lost 45 minutes of his memory. 45 minutes went out of his brain. And that's scary. Those symptoms lingered for 3 to 4 weeks. He said that he probably could have been at the Bucs game. He couldn't have played, but he could have been in attendance. And they decided the reward was not worth the risk, which the reward was you get to see a football game live. The risk was, that noise, the crowd noise kind of exacerbates those lingering symptoms, and you're out even longer. So they didn't do that. But he got back last week. He looked good. He looked limited. I don't think that they had him on his full workload, but he said he's healthy. So yeah, I mean, I think you're going to get all the Taysom Hill you can handle the rest of the way, and you should. There's no reason not to. Just because he's not the starting quarterback doesn't mean he's going to be hidden. Ian Book is going to be the backup. So, I mean, this is Taysom Hill is not the starting quarterback, but this is going to be a huge opportunity for Taysom Hill. That's kind of where I'm going with that. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're always going to look more effective when you're trying to make a comeback and you're going into the 2-minute drill and the other team's going into a shot. You're always going to look more effective in those scenarios. The Falcons aren't a good defense. Let's just keep it real. The Falcons are not a good defense. And the Saints made them look like a really good defense for the first half of that game and the first 3 quarters of that game, really. I think the fourth quarter was the Saints just executing, and maybe there is some merit to the fact that, you go into a 2-minute offense, you're more reacting than thinking. I think Saints were getting into their heads a little bit. Once the drops started coming, they just came in. They came more and more. But I would say that you don't need to hurry up for this offense to be effective. You need to catch the ball. You need to extend drives. Getting 1 first down is incredibly important for an offense to look cohesive and look effective and actually take advantage of the things the defense are doing. If you're going 3 and out, a 3 and out is basically a turnover. Obviously the punter can flip field position, do whatever, but a 3 and out destroys any momentum you have. It's the biggest thing a defense can do beyond getting a turnover, getting an interception, getting a sack, fumble. I mean, the offense comes on the field, runs 3 plays, gets completely shut down, gets off the field, you get the ball back. That is, that's a statement possession. It gives the other defense confidence. It removes the confidence of your offense. That's just the fact. So I don't want to see the Saints come out and play like a team in a rush. I want to see them come out and play like a team that understands we only need 10 yards. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 30 feet. We need to go 30 feet. And then we need to go another 30 feet. And then we need to go another 30 feet. We have 3 plays to do it. And we're going to keep doing it until we get to the point where they give us and it's really that simple. You need to stack first downs with a roster like this, with a team that wants to run the ball. You can't be going 3 and out, because any team, any NFL team can beat you if you are not executing on offense. I mean, look what happened to the Bills. 9-6. Look what happened to the Ravens this week. I can't recall the score. It was low scoring. I think it was 6-3 in the third quarter. That can happen when you don't play with discipline, and when you fail to create, not even extend drives, you fail to start drives, right? 1 first down completely changes the dynamic, especially if that comes on a 4th down. I've noticed that, especially in college football recently. Basically, anytime you see a 4th down conversion, a touchdown is coming like 1 or 2 plays later. It feels like it's inevitable. And I think there's merit to that. You think you're getting off the field as a defense. Mentally, you're ready to get off the field. All of a sudden, the drive's still going, and boom, you're in the action. You have a step on the defense and you score. That's what I want to see. Oh yeah, I mean, Mark Ingram, I think he's going to get all the work he can handle today. The question is, how quickly does he set the record? Does he do it on his first carry? Does he do it in the first quarter? Does he do it on the first drive? Does he do it on a touchdown? Does he go Drew Brees and do it on the 70-yard touchdown run? I think it's going to be kind of fascinating to watch. But yes, I think we're going to see. Mark Ingram has been talking for 3 weeks about how good he feels. He says he feels like he's a better running back now than he was when he left after the 2018 season. The guy's 31 years old. He's in his 11th NFL season, but you watch him play and, you have to, I believe him. I believe he is in some of the best football shape of his life. And he says when he says he's better, a lot of that is about understanding what he needs to do, understanding his role, understanding how he can help the team win. And he's done that. And so today you get to see whether he's blowing smoke or whether there's some merit to that. He wasn't bad with the Texans. He wasn't dynamic, I would say. If you go on NFL.com, they'll tell you that he's fourth in the NFL in rushing yards. I fell for that yesterday when I looked at it. He is not. He's like 39. He has about 364 rushing yards. I don't know what went on there to get that messed up, but caught me on Twitter. But if Mark Ingram rushes for 100 yards today and he does it efficiently and he kind of has that throwback, ground and pound performance without Alvin Kamara in there, I think that's a great sign for the Saints going down long term. All right. Oh, we got a who dat from Buffalo up there. Not a Bills fan up in the Great White North, as I call it, because I don't go much further north than Buffalo. But yeah, Saints fans are everywhere. Thanks for joining us, Jimmy. Lawrence, offense without AK, MT, and JW. That's Jameis Winston. Most of the time we don't go by JW, but hey, Sean Payton will have to work wonders today. Yeah, I mean, that's true. But that's been the case all season. That's why I will die on this hill. Sean Payton is the coach of the year. And if he doesn't get it, then there is nothing you can do to get the award outside of, being a bad team that wins a lot of games the next season. We could say coach of the year. More often than not, it's, okay, biggest turnaround award. Who got it? Is it Zach Taylor? Is it, what are the other teams that have come out of nowhere? There's got to be one. The Ravens probably. Either way, you could have a negative coach. We should have a worst coach of the year award. That would be more interesting than a coach of the year award because it never goes to the coach of the year. If you're a good coach and you have like an ascendant coaching performance, you rarely win because you were already considered a good coach. You only win coach of the year, it seems like, if you go from being a coach that people don't appreciate to a coach that people appreciate. Mike McCarthy, probably going to be the coach of the year because everyone thought that he wasn't a good coach. Anyway, Sean Payton, he's a good coach. He should win coach of the year. And that's where we are. We are in week 10. The Saints, every week it seems like, have had another set of adversity that they have to figure out. This week it's Alvin Kamara being gone. Last week it was Jameis Winston being gone. Week 1 it was playing a home game on the road. 7 starters out in week 2. It was the coaches that were out in week 2. Whatever you want to say, every single week of this season has had one thing or another. I had to start in Texas. There was a god dang hurricane. It's been that season. This team is 5-3. This team is in position to make the playoffs. This team is in position to push for the NFC South title. It's 5th straight. They've got to win another game against the Bucs to really make that interesting. But hey, I've seen them do it. Another game today. The Titans without Derrick Henry. We've seen this show before. They did it. They went in there in 2019 and did it. I think they get it done today. That'd be my prediction. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be a rare high-scoring game the Saints play because they're, this feels like a game that just goes the way you don't expect. I think the defenses are going to really get taken to task a little bit. I think losing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to hurt. And early game in Nashville, it's going to be a little cold. I think the teams get taken for a ride a little bit. Okay, we got one more. Saints 5-4. I think Taysom Hill will play a big role on offense in this game. I agree with you. I think he's going to play a big role on offense the rest of the season, and the Saints would be crazy for him not to, assuming he's healthy. You gotta be careful if you're Taysom Hill. He's now had 2 concussions in the last year. He did not have one during his BYU career, which I actually found surprising just based on how he played. He never had one. So he had one in the playoffs last year, and he had one in week 10 this year. Repetitive concussions are the most dangerous things about concussions because you heal less effectively every time. Brain damage is it aggregates. I don't think that's the word, but it builds up over time. And the more as it is repeated and repeated, and you're taking these hits, there comes a point where you can't play football anymore. That's what happened to Steve Young. And, a guy very similar to Taysom Hill, right? And he took those hits because of how he played. And you got to be careful. You got to be smart. You got to protect yourself. And that's what they have to worry about with Taysom Hill. And that's what they have to train, kind of embed in his head. There's going to be instances where you just don't need to take that hit. Go down, get out of bounds. You don't need to hurdle that guy. You don't need those extra 3 yards. Take a lesson from Alvin Kamara. You got the first down. Get out of harm's way. You are more valuable on the field, healthy, than those 3 yards that you got from hurdling that guy, right? So I think that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I think Taysom Hill is going to be a big part of this offense, like it or not. I think the question is going to be, is he more valuable as a starting quarterback or in his dual role? I think that there's no question he's more valuable in his dual role, assuming the starting quarterback is good enough in that role. And I think so far we've seen that he is. But that's it for me. Again, my name is Jeff Nowak, WWL digital sports producer. We had Deuce McAllister on way at the top. So if you're catching this on a replay, go back to the beginning, watch it again. He had some great stuff, talked about Mark Ingram on the record watch. He talked about Nissan Stadium being on his "this place is no good" list because they made him throw away his Yeti water bottle. And he was not happy. We did not plan that conversation. He was heated about it. He is going to have – he wants to talk to the manager because Yeti water bottles are not cheap. I can tell you that. But, again, digital sports producer, WWL. Make sure you check out all of our products. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. If not, or if you're watching and haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. There is the channel, youtube.com/WWL Sports. Up new video content daily, live chats, whatever. Hit me up on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. Let me know what you think of these live chats. Let me know if there's anything you'd be wanting to see more of. Been dabbling with some film study, trying to find ways to kind of work that in throughout the week. So feedback from y'all is always helpful in figuring out, what y'all want to see. Because I want to make stuff that y'all want to see. So hit me up with that. Make sure you check us out on Twitter at WWLAMFM, over on Facebook. And obviously, Deuce McAllister, Mike Haas at game time on the call at WWL AM 870 FM 1053. Sync up your TV to the radio and hang out with Moose and the Deuce, or Deuce and Moose. I always forget how we have that phrase. Deuce and Moose sounds a little better. But do it. All right. Again, let me get the sponsor one more time. Bud Light, ingredients for Saints success. Live chat. My name is Jeff Nowak. Kickoff at noon. Peace, y'all.